Good morning, Obi-Wan. It's good to be with you guys today. Thank you for making Obi-Wan a part of your weekend. It's so good to have you. My name is Chris. If you don't know me yet, I'm one of the pastors here. I'm sure all of us have experienced what I'm about to describe, whether it's through experiencing it as a parent or a friend of a parent or a video or in a movie. But how many of you have experienced like a baby's first words or their first step or something like that? And yeah, most of us have, and it's a really, I think there's a slide for that. Yep. Yeah, look at that cute kid. Wow. So, what goes on during that time? Like, right, they're a little wobbly at first, and they're trying their best, and they fall, and then finally they take that first step, and the applause and the cheer, it's like the kid saved the world. It's like he accomplished everything. It's like, oh my gosh, you're the greatest. Did you see this? Did you see this? Their first step, their first word. I think he said mama. No, he said dada. No, mama, dada. It's a really celebratory thing. You don't often see someone go up to a kid that age and say, why didn't you take 20 steps? What's wrong with you, right? There's cheering going on. On the other hand, if a kid's still in their first steps a few years later, a parent may be concerned. Why? Because there's the thought process of physical growth. They should be walking more. They should be talking more. And it can be the same with God. Guys, He cheers us on when we take spiritual steps of faith and trust in Him. He's in our corner cheering us on. But that said, He wants us to continue to grow. And as we continue this series today and take a look at Romans 8, Paul is going to mention some things that invite us to grow our trust in Him so that we can experience the change He's been talking about for 8 chapters. All the things that we've been talking about. Guys, this changes everything. Jesus changes everything. Victory is possible with Jesus. He just doesn't want us to hear it. It's not just something intellectual. He wants us to experience change. It can't just be something intellectual or something that we hear. It needs to speak to our souls. We need to internalize it so it changes us within so that we're growing. Instead of hearing these truths, we need to remind ourselves of them in moments we need them, so that by applying these truths to our situations, we can respond and live. Notice I didn't say hear from a place of trust, live from a place of trust. So let's dive into what Paul has to say. In Romans 8, it says this: the Spirit you received does not make you slaves so that you live in fear again. Man, that is so good. Rather, the Spirit you received brought about your adoption to sonship. And by Him we cry, everybody say it with me, Abba, Abba, Father. The Spirit Himself testifies with our spirit that we are God's children. You see, when a person begins trusting Jesus, something amazing happens inside of them. Pastor Julian started to talk about this last week. They receive God's Spirit. And what's so cool about that is His Spirit isn't one of fear. It's not one of fear, but one of freedom. Receiving His Spirit changes the dynamic of a whole person's life. They're no longer just a creation of God, but His child. Guys, this changes everything. Their identity is now different. They're God's kid. And so for those who trust Jesus, this is one area where we can grow our trust. It's learning to not just hear about the identity that we have in him, but to trust his identity for us instead of believing how we view ourselves or even how other people view us. Now, to be vulnerable, I'll go first so that you can go second. To be vulnerable when it comes to identity, an area I need to grow in is viewing myself through the lens of past mistakes or current struggles. When I am trapped in that and when I'm not free in his identity, it's not fun. It can feel very lonely. It can feel dark. It can feel condemning. And it can feel hopeless. Now, maybe some of you identify with my identity struggle. Maybe some of you don't. But all of us can get stuck in other types of identity struggles. Maybe for some, it's the opinion of others, whether it's the negative opinions that others have of you, and you can't stand that. You hate when other people think falsely of you, or even when people think good things about you. Their view is still limited. It's still not the massive, amazing things that God thinks of you. Or for some, people find their identity in their successes or failures. And we never want you to hear this wrong when we say this thing. God wants you to accomplish great things, but it has nothing to do with your identity. And so often, like when we fail, we're feeling like a failure before God and before others. And why am I here? We start to lose our purpose. Or we get that success and then it doesn't last as long, and then we need to have the next success and the next success and the next success. And that's just a couple examples. This is why it's important to grow our trust in how God views us so that his view of us becomes an anchor. Everybody say the word anchor. It becomes an anchor for us that can set us and keep us free. Because here's what's so neat about how he views us. It's not based on failure, but on forgiveness. That feels so much better. That feels so much better. It's a worth, listen, it's a worth that's given, not earned. It's a worth that's given, not earned. Because of that, failure can sometimes have natural consequences, of course, but a failure doesn't have to affect our place in God's eyes. Maybe the opinions of others can start to take a back seat. The reason we need an anchor is because we drift. I mean, think of a boat, right? Why does it need an anchor? Because if you don't anchor it to the ocean floor, you're not going to see it the next day. It's going to be somewhere out in the Pacific, somewhere doing its own thing, right? And that's why we need an anchor. That's why this stuff can't stay intellectual. That's why it's not just about hearing it on a Sunday. We need to let it go deep, just like the anchor's deep in the ocean floor, right? We need these things to go deep into our souls so that they anchor us so that we don't drift. When we trust how he sees us, his anchor holds us in place instead of being swayed by our own negative or drifting because of our own negative opinions of ourselves or the limited views and opinions people have of us. And when we trust how he sees us, it can make us feel lighter. And it's just like, God, continue to help me grow in my trust and how you see me so I will stay set free. God, help me to grow to a point where it goes deep enough to where that's my anchor so that when I'm tempted to drift and view myself differently, no, I will be anchored. I'm growing in how you see me. Speaking of identity, in your notes at the bottom, you probably have noticed this. We've had that on there during this series. But the who am I? There's a link there that you can go to so that consistently or maybe even daily, it literally takes 2 to 3 minutes. You can go to the who am I link, and it will just give you another piece of who you are in God. So I want to encourage you during this series and over the next month or so as we head into Easter, connect with God to remind yourself of who you are. Because get this, chances are, there's going to be things or people in your day that will try to take away that identity away from you. Whether it's something you hear about yourself at work, or you're comparing yourself on social media, or something you hear on the radio, or something you hear from a family member that you're off with, chances are your day is going to try to rob you of that identity that God has given you. So that's why it's important to remind ourselves so that when these moments come, they anchor us. It's not just something we hear on Sunday, but they anchor us. Not only are we his kids, he is now our Father. When you think of Abba, think of daddy or papa. Abba is a term of endearment. It's not a term that we need to be afraid of. Abba is a term of closeness. It's not like God's not far away. It suggests this term Abba, that means daddy or papa, it's a term that suggests that God's personal and close. We don't have to live in fear of God. He doesn't have to be someone who's distant. Again, here's this anchor where we're growing. God wants us to be anchored so that our view of him is someone who is close and personal because he is. See, when we think he's distant or we have to live in fear of him, why would we approach him? Oh, I don't want to get near him. I'm afraid of him. Or like he's, has other things to do, like kind of holding the whole world in his hands. He's too distant for me to talk to him, right? There's even a song out there about he's got the whole world in his hands. Like he doesn't care about me. But when we trust and it's our anchor that he's close, that he's personal, that he cares, we'll respond differently. God, I know you're here. Can you help me through this? Can you help me walk this life with you? He wants that view to change how you respond to him. That's how these things go from hearing it on a Sunday or reading it in a book to transforming our spirits. I don't need to be afraid of you. I can actually have confidence in you. You're not distant. You're near. I can talk to you at any time. I can ask for help at 3 a.m. I can get your guidance at 3 p.m. God, keep growing my trust so I can be confident in you, because when I am, it changes everything. It changes how I respond to you. It changes how I view myself. In fact, speaking of confidence in God, look at the good he can do. In Romans 8, it says this. And we know that in all things, you might want to circle the word all, in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who've been called according to his purpose. What then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? I actually want you to read these verses to yourself. I'm actually going to take a pause from the message. I'm going to shut up. Some of you are like, thank God, finally. I'm just going to let you read these verses for yourself. What stands out to you as you read it to your own soul? And then maybe make a note of that on your notes or in your phone. So again, I'm just going to step to the side for a moment and let you read it. What speaks to you? Maybe you want to write that down. Hopefully God spoke to you about something. And there's the shocker, right? God can speak to you as you read his word. Why? Because this is alive. These are words that will be alive in your soul. It's not just a document with words on it. This is something that's alive that can help our soul. And as you look at that verse, he's not saying that all things are good, okay? Some aren't. But in all things, good, neutral, bad, he can work for the good of his kids who love him. Why? Because he's what? Say it. For us. He's for us. And trusting that can change how we view and move through life. I'm going to give a few examples from my life, and I'm actually going to give a few so that you see the progression here. So one time, we had a flood in our home. Our toilet overflowed. It was on the second floor. Our toilet overflowed. That's not nice water coming out, right? When a toilet overflows, right? And so it flooded our hallway bathroom. It started to leak from under our living room ceiling. It destroyed our wood flooring on our first floor. I get this text from my son, and this is what it is. It's a video of him stepping on our wood, and it's going, quick, quick, quick. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening right now? On top of that, it happened a few days before Christmas. Merry Christmas to the Langdons. Woo! This was awesome. And it lasted, the damage and getting it all better, it lasted a couple months. They had to rip out all the flooring on the first floor. It felt like we lived in a different home. We lived in a concrete slab on the first floor for a few weeks. We didn't have a second toilet. It was not a good situation. I'm not going to say it's the worst situation ever, of course, but it wasn't a good situation. Where's the good that happened in all of that? Before Christmas, God, I have a Christmas Eve service to be a part of it. This is what you do. Thanks. The toilet overflows, right? What's the good? The good was we got new flooring on our whole first floor, baby. It was awesome. Once they tore it out, insurance actually covered it. Once they tore it out, yes, we had to spend a little bit, of course, but they tore it all out. Once the concrete slab experience was over, we had new flooring. We had a whole new bathroom. We had a whole new flooring in the bathroom. We had a whole new vanity. It was awesome. God worked good through a bad situation. Let me give you one that's more serious, Robin. And I know, you're going to be shocked. Robin and I have had marriage problems before. I know, the shock in the room. You can't even breathe, right? We have. And there's been times where it's lasted longer than we wanted, and it was harder than we wanted, and it was more difficult. This isn't feeling good, God. Where's the good in feeling disconnected from the love of my life? This is lasting longer than it should. I think there was even a moment or two in those seasons where we were even scared, whoa, this is lasting longer than it should. Where's the good in this, God? The good in it, because it lasted longer than it should, it forced us to develop new habits that we never had before to love each other. And because of those habits, we've still have had bad moments, but we've never gotten to that bad place, that deep place again. You see God working good through a difficult situation. Another one, I'm just going to give one more from our lives. The Langdon family before has sacrificed to lead a church plant. That's what you're like, what's a church plant? Is it a plant in a church? No, that's not what a church plant is. It's a startup church. God, we believe a new church should be in this city because we want to see new lives come into your kingdom that are saved by Jesus Christ, that they have hope through Jesus. And so the Langdon family has done that before, given our sacrifice, our time, our efforts, our energy. And while that church did good things, we had to end up closing that church startup. It's God, what's the good in closing a church? What's the reason that you had us even go through this? Do you know if it wasn't for that church closing, we would have never been at Obi-Wan Church? Now, depending on how you view me, you might think, no, that's not good, But to me, and I love being a part of the Obi-Wan family. God working, it wasn't good that happened, but God working out a good through those tough situations. And I just talked about outward things. Now let's start listing the internal, the things that he's done for us when we've gone through hard times and the good that he's worked through it. He's given us deeper perspective about ourselves, about him, about others, how to have more grace in situations. He's given us wisdom. Like, here's what we need to know so that we do it differently next time. He's developed perseverance in us. These situations has caused us to depend on God more, which has given us greater trust. So, and these are just, again, examples. So I want to ask you, what's something difficult in your life right now? What's something difficult in your life right now? In fact, I know this is so important. We're going to take another moment here, just in the message, just to pause. Take a moment to connect with Jesus. Really think about something difficult. Let's let this go beyond words on a screen. Take a moment. What's something difficult in your life right now? Take a moment to connect with Jesus, and I want you to do three things, and then you can do what you want, but thank him that he's here for you. God, this is difficult, but you're here for me. Ask him to work for your good, and ask him to help you trust that he can and will work for your good. So take a moment to do that, and then I'll continue the message. Something cool about what you just did, you can do that at any time. You don't have to wait for a Sunday morning for the pastor to initiate it. At 3 p.m., you can stop for a moment to connect with God and remind yourself and thank him. You are for me. This situation that I'm facing in this meeting or with my spouse or this difficult decision we have to make, this doesn't feel good to me right now, but I know that you're for me. And I ask you to work for my good. And I ask you to give me the trust that you can and will work for my good. You guys can do this at any time because, again, he's near. He's here. He's not distant. And while he is taking the whole world under his hands, he also cares individually about you. Now, here's another truth Paul shares that invites us to grow our trust in him. In Romans 8, it says, "Who shall separate us from the love of Christ?" Now, guys, I'm going to be honest, this isn't a great list, okay? It says, but it's asking a question to get to a point. Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? To be vulnerable, that's about as no fun of a list as you can have right there, right? And Paul isn't putting that in there to be a downer. He's just going to prove a point. It's like, hey, you're going through a lot. Maybe you feel targeted and treated unfairly. Maybe you're going through long periods of financial struggle. Maybe you don't feel safe in your situation. Maybe you're feeling consistent or constant pressure and overwhelm. See, this growing trust matters at all times, but especially when we experience stuff from this list. Because when a trial feels overwhelming or it lasts a while, I think a lot of us can start to wonder, I know that there's that verse in the Bible that says God is for us, but is he really? Maybe that's meant for everyone else but me. Or does he even, maybe he's for me, but does he care? Does he even love me? Listen in to see how Paul answers this deep question we may have at times with the next verses. Say it with me. Say it really loud. Say it really loud again. It's pretty simple, huh? No, absolutely not. Those things that at all don't mean that you're separated from his love. No, in all these things, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am, help me, say it. Say it like you're convinced. Gotcha. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, angels, demons, the present, the future. Remember I talked about earlier about that? Powers, height, depth, anything. Paul's like, hey, just in case you think of anything else that's not on this list, anything in all of creation, nothing will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. There's our answer. God isn't against his kids. These difficulties aren't evidence that we're separated from his love. Nothing separates us. But again, I talked about this earlier in the message. This wasn't mere intellectual theory for Paul. You notice he didn't say, for I have. Can you go back to the first slide where it says, I'm convinced, Adam? You notice it doesn't say, for I have heard. I have heard that neither death nor life. Man, I heard, that speaker today, he was on point. It sounded so good. He talked about in his message that nothing can separate us from God's love. I don't know what that means, but nothing can separate us from, it was so good. No, Paul doesn't say that he's heard it. He says that he's convinced because it's not mere intellectual theory to him. It's not just something he's heard. It grew in him. It became an anchor for him. It's something that he anchored himself to. He was convinced. Now, don't hear that wrong. Paul had low spiritual moments like we all do, but he had a growing trust in God that anchored him. And when it really mattered, he could stand firm, confident in his grace, secure as his kid, assured that he was working for his good, certain that he was loved. So I have a question for you. What would your life look like if you were so convinced that no matter the difficulty, it didn't make you question if God is for you or if he even loves you? And I don't ask that in a guilt-driven way like at all. It's a hopeful, like growth-oriented way. How would our lives look different if we were convinced? And by the way, I'm not there yet. My life would look different. I've grown. I'm more convinced. But if I was completely convinced, my life would look different. How about yours? Let me tell you how I know my life would be different from just a couple angles. There have been times where I've looked back after the difficulty and thought, what a waste not to trust God more. I just kind of needlessly wasted my life with worrying. What a waste that was. He answered. What a weird question to ask God. God, do you really care? Like he did. He showed up. Like, I just wasted my life needlessly. The other angle, and I don't bat 1,000 at this. I just shared like 1.8 seconds ago that I still can go through this. But I do bunt at this sometimes, at least, I think. When I trust that he works things for my good and is for me, I'm more at peace. I respond differently to people and situations. I can do my part and rest when my part is done. And so how would your life change? In fact, I'm going to finish off the message here, but feel free to take a few seconds to write that in your notes or to type it down in your cell phone. How would your life change if you were convinced that God was for you and loved you no matter what? Like literally no matter what. Now to be clear, because I don't want any misunderstandings, right? Wanting evidence that God is for us and loves us is normal. In fact, Pastor Julian for a moment is going to share on that before we close. It's a good thing. Most people want to know that they're valued and loved, so they look for proof. But just to be vulnerable with God, sometimes we just don't look in the best places. Let me show you what I mean. In John 15, Jesus is sharing. Listen into our final verse of the day. And again, it's from Jesus. He says this, "Greater love has no one than this." What is he saying? There's no greater way someone could show their love to someone else. To lay down one's life for one's friends. There's no greater way. He could have shown us that he loves us, that he's for us, than by what Jesus actually did by giving his life. It was the ultimate thing he could have given. Now, to be clear, I'm not someone who's always just tells people to look at Jesus' sacrifice, when they're going through something hard. Because even with good intentions, that can feel like you're minimizing what they're facing. And also, Jesus gives more evidence than his sacrifice alone. But I want to walk a tightrope with you now that I shared this side of it. Nobody's minimizing Jesus. Jesus gives more evidence than his sacrifice alone, all of that. But at times, let's go to the other side here to walk the tightrope. At times, it is important to reflect on his sacrifice. Because it can be the anchor when we don't see a lot of external proof. It's not just something that we hear about at Easter time. Oh, he died for us. It's not just something we maybe reflect on for 1 second when communion comes around. Oh, it can be an anchor for our soul. Like, gosh, you're right. I don't see a lot of external proof right now, and it's tempting me to drift into questioning your love and if you're for me, but you're right, you are for me. You do love me, and here's why I know, because you died for me. You know, Easter is next month, and this is just an invitation. This is not something you have to do, but I invite you to use this time to grow your trust in him. We talked about a few ways you could do that today. So it just doesn't stay intellectual. So it's not just something that you hear. It's something that you're convinced of so that it becomes an anchor when you hit life's difficulties, storms, whatever the case may be. Maybe for some, since we're about, again, a month away from Easter, maybe it's taking a little bit more time this month to thank Jesus for giving his life so he could give you yours. Your soul is one of the most important things he could care for. And while he does, again, going to this side, while he does many great things, he provided the ultimate way to care for it by dying and rising again for you. And so I ask one more time, what would your life look like if you were convinced that no matter the difficulty, he was for you and that he deeply, deeply cares about you? Jesus changes everything. And when you're convinced, not just when you hear it or it becomes some type of intellectual theory to debate, when you're convinced that you're his kid, that he's for you, and nothing can separate you from his love, it can change how you see yourself, it can change your peace, and it can change how you face and respond and grow through difficulty. Say it with me, Jesus changes everything. Amen. This may be a good time, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes just so you can reflect, just so you can focus. You know, we talked about a couple truths today that we're wanting to let them go deeper than intellectual or just hearing it. And so maybe what's one truth that has hit your heart today? And just asking God, grow me in this way. I don't want it to just be something on a page or something that sounds cool on a Sunday, but I don't know how to apply it on a Wednesday. Like, grow me in this area. So why don't you take a moment or two, and then Christo and Pastor Julian will come out. Connect with God, guys. Love you guys.